Swing by JCPenney. The Black Friday and July deals are hot, hot, hot. Like $21.99 Arizona jeans and Home Expressions quick dry bath towels only $4.99. Get them while they last. Or check the JCP app for an extra 30% off coupon to use across the store. Buy online and pick up curbside to make life even easier. Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers good on select styles through 7/24. Black Friday and July deals excluded from coupon. Conditions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details. Do it!
Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 179 called Peta Murgatroyd. Today's episode is sponsored by Prove, a women's health company dedicated to providing information and solutions on key fertility hormones so they can reach their goals faster. Prove founder Amy Beckley, PhD, invented the first and only FDA-cleared PDG test after her own battle with infertility. When she learned that her 7 miscarriages and 2 rounds of IVF could have been prevented by an inexpensive progesterone supplement, she set out to help other women better understand the success of their ovulation from home. Prove's newest kit, Complete, allows women to measure all 4 key cycle hormones that impact conception from the comfort of home so they can get pregnant faster. With just one test kit, you can better understand ovarian reserve, identify up to 6 fertile days, and check for successful ovulation. And now the free Prove Insight app takes your hormone knowledge one step further by providing numeric hormone levels, info about what they mean, and personalized action plans to help you reach your fertility goals faster. That's not all, guys. Prove also offers an entire suite of at-home hormone tests and hormone-supporting products to empower you with the right information on your journey. Okay, so you know I love female-founded companies and products that can truly benefit anybody battling infertility, so definitely check out Prove. It's spelled P-R-O-O-V. You can go to provetest.com, P-R-O-O-V-T-E-S-T.com, and you can enter the code ALLIE25 and you'll get 25% off your first Prove order of $25 or more. Again, Infertile AF listeners are getting a special discount code, so go to provetest.com, P-R-O-O-V-T-E-S-T.com, enter the code ALLIE25, A-L-I-25, and you'll get 25% off your first Prove order of $25 or more. Thanks, Prove. Today's episode is sponsored by Extend Fertility. Since we're talking about taking charge of your fertility, knowing what's happening in your body, and your fertility treatment options when trying naturally isn't going the way you planned, it only makes sense for me to partner with Extend Fertility, a fertility clinic based in the heart of Manhattan. Extend offers next-generation care by combining exceptional clinic experience with a small practice environment where your needs are their main focus. Extend Fertility was founded on the premise that democratizing fertility care could ultimately change the industry and deliver better results. Since they started offering all infertility treatment options, Extend Fertility has helped thousands of patients on their fertility journeys, putting them in charge of their fertility future instead of letting time dictate the path. Extend wants to make all fertility services within reach financially, offering rates 40% below the national average cost. Extend Fertility also believes in being personal and data-driven. They're passionate about delivering fertility care in a more compassionate and transparent way. And to help proactively explore your fertility options, Extend has an exclusive offer for all Infertile AF listeners. If you schedule a consultation with Extend and mention that you're an Infertile AF listener, you will receive $500 off your first IVF or egg freezing cycle. You guys, that's huge, $500 off. So like we said, accessibility is very important to them. To schedule your consultation and to learn more, visit extendfertility.com. Again, it's extendfertility.com for $500 off your first IVF or egg freezing cycle when you mention Infertile AF. Thanks, Extend, and thanks, Dr. Klein. This episode is supported by Receptiva DX. The Receptiva DX test can help couples struggling with unexplained infertility. Getting pregnant isn't easy, as so many of you know. Many couples struggle with infertility, and unexplained infertility can be particularly frustrating. Women facing unsuccessful IVF may not know that endometriosis is the underlying cause, a disease that can impact the success rates of IVF treatments and often has no symptoms. The Receptiva DX test can help identify endometriosis before an embryo transfer, and it has the potential to save women the stress, anxiety, and cost of multiple failed IVF attempts. The good news is, multiple studies show treatment of women with a positive Receptiva DX test improves live birth outcomes by over 50%. Receptiva DX can detect all stages of endometriosis and help women make better decisions in planning for pregnancy. You can learn more at receptivadx.com or download their app, which is also called Receptiva DX. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited for today's episode. Peta Murgatroyd, as you know, is on Dancing with the Stars. She's one of the pros. She is effing amazing. When I flashed out that I was going to be having her on my show, everybody was like, I love her. And I do too. She's so incredibly cool. As you guys know, she's married to another pro on Dancing with the Stars, Max, and they have a son named Shai, who's now 5 years old. So today, Peta is going to tell me all about her secondary infertility journey that she's still in the middle of right now. So Peta and I are going to talk about all the things, her 3 miscarriages, dealing with loss in the middle of her Dancing with the Stars season, why she felt embarrassed and ashamed by having miscarriages, which I think so many people can relate to, why she feels it's so important to talk about it now, how she and Max have dealt with it together, and what happened when she started IVF, which just started in June. So she is incredible. I'm super honored to have her on the show. Thank you so much, Peta. And without further ado, this is Peta's infertility story. First of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm really, really thrilled to share your story. And I love how you've been so open about everything you're going through. I'd love to start with your son, who's 5, right? Did you always want to be a mom?
You know what? I didn't. I thought that I only had those feelings come up in me like when I was about 28. But prior to that, I was like, I'll wait for as long as I can. Like I always wanted to be a career woman, always be working. I didn't know how I was going to be pregnant and have kids and still be able to dance and stuff like that. And which is, such an immature way of thinking, really, and just a little ignorant. But it only kind of hit me when I was 28, and I was like, because I had met my now husband, Max, and that was when I was really had those feelings of like, oh my God, I would love to have a child with him. So yeah, and then I guess it happened quickly. We had a baby out of marriage and we were engaged. And then I think I was pregnant 6 months after that. And yeah, it all kind of happened naturally. And the first time we tried. So it was easy back then. And now not so much.
I had the same thing with my daughter, who is now almost 13, actually. We didn't have any problems with me getting pregnant with her. And I had, secondary infertility, 4 losses between her and my son, who I actually ended up having through IVF, as many people who listen to the show know. But let's talk about you and Max. Like when you guys started to try for the second baby, was there a conscious effort there? Was it, we want to give Shai a sibling, we want to have a big family? What was the train of thought?
It was. I had been ready a year prior to when we had started, but I guess we were always thinking about the next job. And in hindsight, I regret that. It was almost like, but Dancing with the Stars is going to call me. I've still got a season on my contract. I want to do that season. And then it just got to the point where it was 2020 and I was dancing with Vernon Davis on the show at that point. And I just we decided, okay, let's give it a go. Let's do it. I can dance pregnant. It's fine. And we ended up getting pregnant the first time we tried again. So Max was just like, woohoo, I've got super sperm and like,
totally.
Manly thing. He's like, I can do anything,
Right. Were you guys like, this is a piece of cake. This is every time we try, it just happens. Right.
Yeah. And then I was pregnant for about a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks of like pure bliss. And then I just knew something was wrong. And then it happened, and it had mid-season. I was still dancing. I was still on the show, and it was very traumatic. It was awful.
I'm so sorry. Was this the miscarriage when you were in the Whole Foods that you were talking about in 2020? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did happen to people that might not have read the People article or heard you talk about this before? Was it bleeding or pain or?
So the day before it happened, I was feeling a little ill. I was feeling a little sick, and I didn't get any nausea in my first pregnancy. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's different child, whatever. And then the next morning I jumped on the treadmill for literally 15 minutes. I did a jog. I got out, had a hot shower, and a blob of blood just fell on the floor after the shower. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Again, trying to keep positive, telling myself, like, don't freak out. People get their periods, like a full period during their pregnancy. I know plenty of women that have had that. Anyway, so I couldn't get hold of anybody. And I think that was one of the other traumatic things was I was calling every doctor I knew. Nobody was picking up. I was leaving voicemails. I had to take our car GMC in to get fixed. Something happened to it. And I walked across the road and I was still bleeding, just spotting at that time. And I went to calm myself down. And again, nobody was getting back to me. Max was out and I just had to take myself to the toilet because it got a little bit too bad for public, if you know what I mean. Like I couldn't just sit there and let this happen anymore. So took myself to the restroom and that's where it happened. And it was so bad. It was
I'm
just
so
bad.
sorry. It's such a traumatic experience. It is. And, you know, one of the things you said, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, nobody was giving me answers or giving me advice. Like finally the nurse got back to me and she said, oh my God, was it a lot of blood? Was it a little bit of blood? And I said, well, now it's a lot of blood and I need to know what I'm doing, you know? So then I drove myself in and they gave me a blood test and I had it.
I'm so sorry. One of the things I wanted to ask you about that I thought was really relatable was you said you were kind of embarrassed and like ashamed. And, you know, you said, this is your quote, I didn't even know how to utter the words and have that sentence come out of my mouth. I had a miscarriage, which I think is so common and relatable. Yeah. Tell me about that shame and embarrassment. Why do you think you felt that way?
I number one, I guess it was just maybe an ego proud thing. I'm a dancer. I'm healthy. I'm an athlete. Like, how could this happen to me? That was my first original thought. And that might sound crazy, but I was like, I take care of myself. What's wrong with me? How could this happen? I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe it was the treadmill. And then all the blame started coming on. I was racking my brain to think every second of the day, what did I do? What did I eat? Did Shai jump on me at that point? But I pondered over how I was going to tell the 6 or 8 people that I had told that I was pregnant. I pondered over it for weeks. I kept it a secret while they were still asking me, how am I feeling? Are you excited? And I would just lie. I would lie to my housekeeper that I would be with all the time. And I was very ashamed of lying. And then I couldn't even describe how I was going to start the conversation. I didn't know, do I sit people down and I say, hey, can you please stop asking me about this now? Or was it a sad topic? Was it I didn't know how to begin. And I also didn't want to be in a constant sad state, having to tell every person. So I was trying to find a time where I could tell each couple at a time and just kind of weave it in there and weave it out. But you probably know what I'm saying. It's hard to explain. Totally. I just felt I didn't know how to say I don't have a baby anymore.
It's hard to kind of unwind that. And it's hard to even broach the topic because you know that it's going to be an exhausting conversation. And it's almost like reliving the trauma every time. And, you know, then you get all this sympathy, but it's like, sometimes you don't want that. It's just, it's tough.
That's a good thing. I didn't really want the sympathy because in my mind, the next month I was going to be pregnant again. You know, I was just like, what if I don't say anything to anybody? And I wait a couple months, I get pregnant again, and then I'll never have to say it to anybody. You know, I had all of these things going on in my mind, all these different scenarios where I could keep it under wraps. But I just, I felt terrible if I didn't say anything. It was just building up. So
yeah. And were you still working at the time? So were you still on that season when this happened? So how did you, I mean, I'm so impressed with, I have to say, like, as women, we're like such badasses, right? Like, going to work and doing what we have to do and putting on a brave face and all that. How did you do it? How did you go to work every day and go about your life every day?
So that was my first thing, is that I didn't know how to call Dancing with the Stars and tell them. I could say, you know, I'm sick, but I didn't want to lie because they're going to check up on me and ask why I'm not there. Can we have a doctor's note? Like all of this stuff. And I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to divulge the information that I had a miscarriage also. I wanted to keep it to myself. So ultimately, when I have no choice, I'm going in. So I went in and it was dreadful having to put on a happy face when knowing that I utterly sad on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard to mask. A couple of people asked if I was okay during those weeks, and I wasn't my normal bubbly self, and I put on a show.
Yeah.
I danced until the end, and I didn't know how to tell Dancing with the Stars that I had a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm. Today's episode is brought to you by Sugar Break, the first natural, non-prescription support system that empowers you to reduce your sugar intake and manage healthy blood sugar levels so that you can live your best life. Their products are made with natural ingredients that have been scientifically tested in over 20 clinical studies and are proven to curb sugar cravings and promote healthy blood sugar management. All Sugar Break products are gluten-free and allergen-free, and their adult line is vegan. Sugar Break is backed by a world-class scientific advisory team, including an endocrinologist, the head of eating and weight disorders at Mount Sinai, a sugar addiction expert, a registered dietitian, a pediatric specialist, and more. So, of course, before endorsing these products, I had to try them myself, and I have to tell you guys about Reduce, which is one of Sugar Break's products. So Reduce is a good thing to try if you are suffering from PCOS, if you struggle with insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome, if you have a family history of diabetes, or you're just looking to maintain healthy blood sugar levels for your overall health. So I'm guessing that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you are interested in a healthy lifestyle. And I will tell you a little bit more about a couple of their other products. So they have Stabilize, which helps block the absorption of sugars and carbs. They have Reduce, which I was just talking about, which helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels. And they have Resist, which helps block the sweet taste in all foods. All right, guys. So if you are interested in trying Sugar Break, which I do believe you should, go to sugarbreak.com and use my special code, which is InfertileAF, and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Again, go to sugarbreak.com, use code InfertileAF, and you'll get 20% off. Thanks, Sugar Break.
Swing by JCPenney. The Black Friday and July deals are hot, hot, hot. Like $21.99 Arizona jeans and Home Expressions quick dry bath towels, only $4.99. Get them while they last. Or check the JCP app for an extra 30% off coupon to use across the store. Buy online and pick up curbside to make life even easier. Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers good on select styles through 7/24. Black Friday and July deals excluded from coupon. Conditions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Do it.
And what about Max? Like, how are you guys doing as a couple? I've been really open about the fact that just infertility in general was really hard on my marriage. And there was a point where my husband and I were like at an impasse, and I wanted to keep going and he was done. And it's just so complicated. So, how is he dealing with the loss and grieving? And were you guys grieving differently or?
Yeah, I do agree with you in that it is hard. He's a very supportive guy. I think we grieve definitely in different ways. I think the first miscarriage hit me so hard that he did have to sit me down after about 4 months after that, because it was pretty much 4 months of like heavy grieving where I was crying most nights in bed next to him. And, he's not going to cry every time with me, but he's there with me. And he had to sit me down and say, listen, you have to get back to yourself. You won't be able to get pregnant again if you don't try to be happy again and try to accept it and move on. But it was really that I was in denial. I was heavily in denial that this ever happened, and that I wanted to try to erase it and get pregnant the next month and the next month and the next month. And it wasn't happening. I spent 8 or 9 months not being pregnant after the first miscarriage because I was so, the energy wasn't right. I didn't have that happiness going into trying to get pregnant again. It was just like, I have to be pregnant, the fastest way possible. But he was very upset with me. The second one, he was very upset. He was away again. I told him over the phone he had to stop the tour bus that he was on with his brother and get off and have the conversation. He was crying, and it was devastating because he felt terrible that he wasn't there for me again, So I think men just grieve in a different way. He was grieving, and it did. Along the way, he had talks with me. He's like, well, it's hard for me too. It's hard because I want to be a dad too. He's 42. He wants to be a dad again and again and again, and it's not happening. And he's sad too, and he doesn't know how to handle this situation. But I will say that I should have gone with my gut. As soon as I had my first miscarriage, I knew something was wrong. I knew that it wasn't just a bad egg. Everyone's like, oh, it's pandemic stress. Don't worry. You'll be fine.
Right.
Next week will be good. I listened to everybody around me except for myself. Even Max was like, you don't need a fertility specialist. You're crazy. Your hormones are raging, and I would sit back and I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I should just chill, And I was wrong. I was wrong every time. And I should have listened to my gut. I should have taken myself, and I would have had 2 more babies by now. I would have been a mom of 3, in this time span. But, everything happens for a reason. And I got to think of it that way.
Absolutely. So imagine also just going through this in the public eye. You're worried about things leaking out or your story being told without you being behind the driver's seat, right? Was that a concern too, that like something might slip out into the news that you didn't want to, or anything like that?
In the end, yes, because I was starting to have those fertility appointments, and I didn't realize, but that was one of the main clinics that other celebrities, the bigger celebrities than me, like I'm not a celebrity like that, but like big people have gone in there and they have been photographed and, coming out of there. And I didn't realize that. And one person told me that. They said, Peta, be very careful when you go in there. You might get your story leaked. And I was like, oh gosh. And that's when I sat back and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be leaked before I get to say my word.
Absolutely. I want to ask about something you mentioned earlier, which I think is such a good point, where you're saying, you're healthy, you work out every day. And then you realize that that doesn't really go hand in hand with like reproduction. So, which is such an interesting point, because you would think you're healthy in every area. Like this should be something that goes along with it. What did you know like about your fertility before you got into this whole world? Like, because I admittedly didn't know much. I thought IVF was for people that wanted to have multiple babies. Like I was so clueless.
Well, yeah, I thought IVF was so taboo. You only do IVF if you're like a broken woman type of thing, and, you have nothing left to give, there's, and I thought it had such a dark stain on the word IVF, and I was so ignorant and so wrong. And just because I had no idea that it could be for multiple reasons. And, I was getting pregnant easily, but I just couldn't sustain it for some reason. And I guess being able to do that little portion of, the fertilization outside of my body has been the gift, because that's the part that you can't manage and look at while it's happening. So having scientists, look at it under a microscope and be able to get it genetically perfect and to implant it back in, that was my issue, that we couldn't see that little second part of it,
Right. So was it 3 losses that you had before you went to a specialist?
It was 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. So what made you finally decide, I got to see somebody?
It was my second miscarriage, where I had, after my second miscarriage, I went to see like a hormonal doctor where I found out that, my hormones weren't optimal for everything. But I kind of said to myself and Max, I said, if this happens to me one more time, that's it. I said, it is so bad for my mental health. It is such a traumatic thing to go down, and I don't want to affect my family anymore. I don't want to put Max through this. I don't want to put my son through this. I don't want him to see me cry anymore. And, I want to know, and I want to have the answers that I should have had after my first miscarriage. And I need to do my due diligence in finding out what's really wrong with me.
So when you went in, were they able to give you, a battery of tests and a diagnosis? I know you mentioned that you finally found out that you have PCOS, right?
Yeah. So we did a lot of tests, and I mean, so much blood. I'm sure what
you feel like a pincushion, right?
Oh my gosh. It was just constant ultrasounds as well on top of that. And you know how it's so time specific, in your cycle, it's like you're testing progesterone and estrogen at a time, and then you test them again in 3 days, and it's just a lot. And they found out that my hormonal levels looked like I had PCOS. So that was it. And I kind of walked out of there with a piece of paper, and I felt great about myself. And I don't know whether I should have felt great or not, but I came out with like answers that I could tangibly like show my husband. I say, here, this is what's going on. Now we get to figure out a way around it and figure out how we're going to get the next kid.
Absolutely.
So,
I think that's a big part of it, is getting some sort of diagnosis, even if it's not great news. It's like, but at least we know how to address this issue, and you've got a plan.
yeah, exactly.
So what did they tell you to do? Like, what was the treatment plan?
So we had the option of keeping trying naturally. And I do believe that I could have gotten pregnant, but it might have taken me 5 years from now. So I didn't want to wait. I really felt like I was on a time crunch. Shai just turned 5. So I really feel like I want him to have a sibling and grow up with a sibling and not be 10 by the time I get pregnant again. So I kind of put it into full steam ahead. We did try 1 month of they gave me extra hormones to take, couple of pills to try it naturally, but just boosting my hormonal levels. Didn't work. I don't know why, but we went away for the weekend. We did it right. We did like a little spiritual cleanse and everything. Wasn't meant to be. So I walked in there straight away the next day and I called Max. I said, I'm doing IVF. Goodbye. I love you. Walked in there to Dr. Sari and I just said, listen, let's go. I'm ready. And it was so gratifying. I was so happy. I was just like, I have my answers now. I can move forward.
Right. And it's almost like that thing of, you were listening to your gut, right? You said you knew all along something was wrong. So it's almost like a justification too, where you're like, I knew it. I knew something was wrong. Right.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so great that you advocated for yourself and you did go see somebody. So how long ago did you start this IVF process and everything? And where are you right now?
It's about beginning of June. I really kind of put my foot down and made that decision. Right now, we have made embryos, we have fertilized eggs, and we are just waiting to hear the number and the gender. The gender
That's
of them.
exciting.
Yeah, it's just a waiting period, as you know.
Right. So you did a retrieval and you're doing some testing and waiting for the results of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe that at least half of those 40 eggs, at least, are going to be not viable. So, you know, I'm 35, so I don't have these super high expectations of, I'm going to have 40 babies there.
Right.
No, I'm going to have hopefully, 2.
Right. Amazing. So, and how are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling physically? How did you respond to the stims and all the drugs and all that stuff?
At first, right now I feel mentally really great. I feel happy. I feel confident and just hopeful. Body is like still, it's weird. When I first started taking the injections and the stims, I didn't feel like I was gaining weight at all. Like I was like, wow, this is okay. I'm fine. You know? And then Dr. Sari is like, oh, just wait a second, So I have definitely gained like 5 to 7 pounds. I don't feel like myself, as in body wise. I feel a little bit absolutely better after the egg retrieval, because after my egg retrieval, my stomach was huge. I don't know about yours, but it was 5 months pregnant. Huge.
Okay.
It was like that for a good 4 days before it started to calm down and go back to normal. And I was like, is this normal? Because my stomach's really big. And they said that's because we were up there a long time because we had 40 eggs to aspirate. Right. So normally people have, they said like 3 to 4 eggs that we're grabbing, but we had to grab 40 eggs out of you. So it took longer. That's why you're going to have a little bit more downtime. And I was like, okay.
Absolutely.
Right. But I feel my body doesn't feel the normal Peta, but my mind does.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned before we started recording, I'd love for you to say again, why do you think it's so important to share your story in the public eye and talk about this stuff?
Because it's just not spoken about enough. Again, I was ignorant. I didn't know how many people are actually having miscarriages. Women are having miscarriages. How many of my friends and colleagues and acquaintances that I've met along the way have said, hey, I had one too, 3 years ago. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. I thought that there was something majorly wrong with me. And, I'm the only one out of my circle. And it's just not spoken about enough because it is so huge. There's millions of people that this is happening to. And again, I thought it was such a small portion, like, 0.1% or whatever. It is like 1 in 4 women have a miscarriage. So that blew my mind. And I love that you're doing this podcast because people get to be included and they get to share their stories and not feel like you're an outsider and just not alone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying that. And last question is, if somebody might be listening to this who's just in the shit right now, they're just having a terrible time and feeling really down. Do you have any words of advice for someone who might be new to the infertility world or just not really sure what they're doing? Anything you've learned along the way that you could pass along?
I think my best advice would be to feel what you need to feel and don't apologize for it. If you're having bad days, have a bad day, because along the way, I really tried to not have some bad days, and it's okay. And if you need to sit and cry for a whole day, sit and cry for a whole day, because the next day is going to be beautiful and you're going to be smiling and you can be hopeful. But I think just really listen to yourself, listen to your gut, and know that you are the best person to make the decisions for you.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And thanks again to Peta for sharing her story. We are rooting so hard for you. You guys can follow her story. She's really open with it now on Instagram. And of course, watch Dancing with the Stars. You can see her and Max, hopefully, again soon. And I just want to thank her again for being so open about everything. It really helps when people who are in the public eye talk about this stuff, as you know, blasting stigmas and just making it more comfortable for anybody to talk about. So Peta, I can't thank you enough. And also, guys, if you're looking for more support, definitely check out Fertility Rally, which is the community that I co-founded. It offers 4 support groups a week. We have 2 private Facebook groups. We have so much content, so many videos. We have IRL events. We have Fertility Rally Live twice a year, which is our all-day event with speakers and giveaways and community. And it's just the place I wish I had when I was going through it. So we're 400 plus members strong throughout the world. If you want to join us, definitely reach out. Check us out on Instagram at Fertility Rally. You can DM us with questions. You can also DM me always at Infertile Stories on IG, or you can email us at thefertilityrally@gmail.com. So check out Fertility Rally if you're seeking support. Thanks again to Peta and to Max and to Shai. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.
Swing by JCPenney. The Black Friday and July deals are hot, hot, hot. Like $21.99 Arizona jeans and Home Expressions quick dry bath towels, only $4.99. Get them while they last. Or check the JCP app for an extra 30% off coupon to use across the store. Buy online and pick up curbside to make life even easier. Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers good on select styles through 7/24. Black Friday and July deals excluded from coupon. Conditions and exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details. Do it!